this is Heather Ann Antonacci, Executive Coach and Chair with Vistage, Florida. I am joined today by Kathy Aparo Griffin. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Kathy, she's going to tell you about that beautiful scenery behind her. But Kathy is the CEO of Aparo Griffin Properties. She has an amazing story to share with us and talk about her journey and everything you wanted to know about Aparo Griffin Properties. So welcome again, Kathy. And before you even get started, can you tell us what is that beautiful scenery behind you?
Well, first off, let me say thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm very honored to be here. I really appreciate it. This scenery behind me is a very special place in my heart. I'm 100% Italian. My parents were born in Italy. So every time I go to Italy, I just admire. Right now, obviously times are tough there, but I admire the scenery, the art, the buildings, everything that makes Italy, the food, the people. So this is a picture that I took in Florence, and I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. And then when somebody said, hey, let me do a mural in your office, I thought, well, I'm going to get one of the pictures that I took. And it's a walkway in Florence, Italy. So
that is gorgeous. And for anybody who is listening to this and not watching the video, I can tell you this is not a virtual Zoom background. This is the real deal painted onto her wall back there. And it is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yes, gorgeous. So let's get started. Tell us everything about Kathy and Aparo Griffin Properties. How'd you get where you are right now?
Well, lots of hard work. I am a graduate of University of Florida. I have a bachelor's in telecommunications. I minored in law. And from the early age of 16, I was in a different profession for almost 20 years. Starting at 16, I was on the radio. And I was a disc jockey, not like a club disc jockey, but a disc jockey on the radio in a cubicle where you push a button and you think you're talking to yourself, but you're talking to millions of people. So I was on the radio at a lot of the local radio stations out of Orlando. I did middays at Magic 107.7 for almost 11 years. I put 101.1 WJRR on the radio. I was the afternoon drive girl. And I was also their music director. I was on Variety 101, Power 105.9, Y100. I mean, I've been on a lot of radio stations, and I always did a midday show. Most of the times it was midday. So basically it's a midday air personality, and that's people calling in and you just being yourself. It's fun. It didn't seem like work. You know, live broadcasts at Disney, Universal. It was just a great profession, but then consolidation happened.
Okay.
So when there was no consolidation, everybody got to be an air personality. You got to be your personality, but as what am I trying to say? As everything got consolidated, okay? And then one company owned everything, they were trying to maximize their dollar. So they would have me, who would be middays, also doing middays on 2 or 3 or 4 other radio stations.
Okay.
I would record it. So I got to be a personality on the one that I was live, but everything else was just pre-recorded, and it took the fun out of it. It wasn't fun anymore. So in about 2008, my brain went, well, if they're having me do 2 or 3 radio stations, why don't I pick up 20, 30, 40 radio stations? So I decided to do what's called the Voice Track Diva. I set up a
voice track diva?
A Voice Track Diva. I set up a radio station, basically a broadcast station in my house, in my living room, okay? And I would lay down tracks for Pittsburgh. I was on 100 radio stations.
Wow.
I was in Hawaii, Brazil, and I would just send the tracks all over the country, all over the world. And then people would call, and I remember doing all the tracks, and then my son was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and I'd say, let's go to the beach. So I'd work about 3 hours in the morning, lay down my tracks, and then go to the beach. Then I'd get a call, hey, we need you to revise the tracks. Well, why? Well, we just had a blizzard come through in Pittsburgh, and you're saying beautiful today, lots of sunshine, but people are driving in a blizzard. So I'd have to rush home. I'd have to update the tracks. So, I mean, it worked for a long time. But then after a couple of years of sitting in a room talking to myself, when you're, used to having human contact,
Yeah.
I started to say I need to get out there. So at that same time, my husband took a job in Massachusetts, in Boston, and we put our house for sale. And I remember the house being on the market, and I remember 2 years of going through 8 different realtors. So finally I said, I'm going to fly back and try to sell my house myself. So of course I had no clue. I was a radio jockey. I had no idea how to sell a house. So I went to the library and I got a book on how to sell your house. The book was like this thick. Okay. It was like 400 pages. This is a true story. So I get a couple of calls. I took a banana box. When you go to the grocery store and you buy banana, and I wrote house for sale and put my phone number and put the banana box in my front yard. I got a couple of calls. Next thing you know, they were outbidding each other, and I was over asking price, and it was less than a week. And they were both asking me if I was a real estate agent or a real estate broker. And I said, no, I'm not. She's like, you're really good at this. You should do it. And my brain went, I don't like doing things that I don't know what I'm doing. So if anything, when this is done, I'm going to take my class just so I know what I'm doing. Not to be a realtor, not to be a broker, but just to take the class. So next time I know what I'm doing. So they finally agreed. We agreed on a price. And then she said, okay, what's the next step? I said, well, have a seat. I'll be right back. I ran to the other room. I got my book and I'm like,
flipping through the book,
trying to figure out what to do next. And it said, write a contract. And I'm like, well, God, I don't know how to write a contract. And then a light bulb went off. Well, when I bought this house, somebody wrote a contract. So I dug up my closing documents and I found the contract. So I was like, okay, that's my name because I'm the buyer. That's their name because they're the seller. That's the price. So I whited everything out, which of course you can't white out on contract. And I used the contract from when I bought my house to sell my house. But I swore I would never do it again because it was not a good experience because I really was just flying by the seat of my pants. So we finally closed. Everything went great. And I remember we were building a new house and I worked myself a pretty good deal. We closed, we got all of our money, and then I got to live in the house for 3 months and not pay anything. So I kind of worked myself.
It is a good deal.
So I went and I took the real estate class, and my sister joined me because, we were both at the time pregnant with our second kids, our second babies. So we're taking the class, and after we got the license and I got everything, I took it and I shoved it in the drawer. And I went back to radio, and then I was like, you know what? This isn't the same. And then I went in, as typical on radio, went in to do my shift, and they said, everybody's been let go. We flipped formats last night, which is how radio operates. You go in one day, you're playing country music, you go in the next day and everybody's gone. So they let me go. And at that point I thought, wow, this is the end of the world. What am I going to do? All I've ever done is radio. So I opened the drawer. I pulled out that dusty license, which is almost ready to expire because I had gotten it 2 years before. And I said, I'm going to give it a try. But I was very much against corporate at that time because I had had a bad experience with consolidation and everything else that happened.
Yeah.
So I went through the phone book and I called every real estate company in town. And I said, I want the smallest real estate company that I could find. The smallest, the non-corporate smallest. So I found one person in town that had a shed in their backyard. And I said, that's where I want to work.
Yeah, it wasn't a she shed. It was just a shed.
It's just a shed, but it was a nice shed. It had air conditioning.
Maybe it was a she shed then.
It was a nice shed. So I went and I signed up with her. And then within that first year, I remember starting in August, and by December, brand new agent, by December, I think I had made like $90,000.
Wow.
So I was like, I kind of like this. This is fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. So I never thought about leaving my broker. I never asked for a raise. I was just happy doing my thing.
Yeah.
And then I had met up with an investor, good friend of mine, and I had gotten to know him really well. So after about a year and a half of being at this broker's office, he shows up and he says, I need you to come with me. And I said, where are you taking me? He goes, do you trust me? I said, of course I trust you. He's just come with me. I said, okay. So I get in his car and he pulls up to this building. And this building has stray cats everywhere. It's boarded up. Okay. There's beer cans all over the place. There's homeless people sleeping on the front porch. And I'm like, why are we here? He said, you're going to buy this building. I said, what am I going to do with this building? This is scary. He said, you're going to buy it, and in a year or two, this will be your real estate office. I said, I don't even have a broker's license. I don't even have a broker's license. I never even thought about opening my own office. He goes, listen to me. You trust me? He said, I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to assign the contract to you for the exact price that I have it. I want you to buy this. Just trust me and buy it. $99,000. I said, okay, I'll buy it. I went home. I told my husband, I said, well, we're buying a building.
We just bought a building that has stray cats and homeless people on the front porch.
And beer cans. And it's boarded
beer
up.
cans everywhere.
Like, you lost your mind? I said, no, but I kind of trust my friend Philip Nader Ashe. I hope he sees this. I said, I trust him. He's a good friend of mine. I said, we need to buy this because he's saying that one day this will be my office. He goes, but you don't even have your broker's license. I said, yeah, but I might get it just to get it, you know? Doesn't mean I might open my office. So we bought it and I rented it out because I didn't have a broker's license. And then at some point in time, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try it. I've got my building. The tenant's been evicted because it was a nightmare tenant. I said, I've got an empty building. Why not just put an open sign? I've got a check for $6,000. I can open an office. Well, my $6,000 was gone in a day. I didn't even pay for the windows with $6,000, but that's okay. I had a cardboard open sign. So I sold my first house, I put in windows. Sold my second house, I put in air conditioning. Sold my third house, I bought a sign. Sold my fourth house, I bought a table because we were using a picnic table. Sold my fifth house, I bought a computer. Sold my sixth house, and that's how I did it. Just hard work.
One house, so one house at a time.
Yeah, like this flooring. This was a house I sold in Victoria Hills. It paid for the flooring. I know which commission paid for what. But fast forward 18 years later, it's all paid for, you know, but it was hard work. Every closing paid for a deal.
And it's grown to, so how many real estate agents do you have there now? Tell me the makeup of your business, of Aparo Griffin.
I have, and you know what, this one thing, I never count my money. I never count my agents. I just know that I have a roof, I have food, I have shelter, and I'm happy. But if I had to guesstimate, I'd say about 25 agents, and I think I've got about 15 in the referral department.
Okay, so that's, yeah. Now think back to when it was just you trying to figure out, without a broker's license, without windows.
No floor, no windows, no air conditioning. And it's funny because some of my clients would come in to sign stuff. I didn't even have a fax machine. They'd come in I'd have to go to the library to print stuff and then meet them here. And I remember one of the guys downtown, they're twins, they're very loyal clients of mine. And I remember them coming in and saying, hey, after this deal, do we get air conditioning? I remember he had a white button-up shirt and he was so sweaty that I could see his chest hairs through the shirt. And I was like, I'm so sorry. After we close this, I promise I'll have air conditioning.
You have such, well, I mean, your passion for what you do obviously just comes right out. I mean, it comes right out. But you have such amazing stories that you can look back on, you know, and kind of those different milestones as you built your company, you know, everything from knowing which house, you know, contributed to the floor, which deal contributed to the air conditioning, but you have amazing touch point stories there, you know, along the way. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. And it's all true. And then along the way, a lot of my clients ended up being realtors. And it was funny because it's been a joke around here that if you buy a house, you have to go work there. So some And like waitresses at restaurants. Another one did pest control. Another one did like Amway online and Facebook advertising. Another one did, she worked at a taxing agency, like a H&R Block. So as they bought their houses, I'd say, okay, I'll find you the perfect house, but you got to come work here and get your license. So I helped them all get their licenses. A lot of those agents sprung out. And I'd say of the top 20 real estate companies in town, 10 of them were my agents, like people that I took in and trained and worked one-on-one with. And now I see them successfully having their own brokerage firm, which is very rewarding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you actually, I mean, not only within your business, but you have helped the Central Florida, you know, economy prosper and contributed to that in that you've brought people on board and then they've gone and opened their own business and they've brought others on board. So they're also probably hiring, you know, waitresses and tax preparers and, you know, service industry individuals who then can come on and be successful in the real estate business.
And then I have people that I deal with that are trades. Like I have a good friend of mine named Tom, and I've known him since I was 12 in middle school. And he was living over in Ormond and was looking for a house. And I said, listen, I've got a house for you in Deland that's a really great buy. It was like a 2,000 square feet over by Huntoon by the river. I brought him over to Deland and I found him a house and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do for work. I said, well, what did you do at the place you were at in Ormond? He said, well, I took care of the pool and I lived in, you know, this mobile home. And I said, oh, you took care of the pool? He goes, yeah. So I call him back 3 days later. I said, I have 2 pools for you to take care of. I told him your Tom's pool and landscaping. He goes, what are you talking about? I don't have a business. I said, you do now. Fast forward 8 years later, I think he's making close to, I don't want to give out numbers, but he's doing very well. And he's got his own landscaping business. So yeah, it's just fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it seems like it, you know, and that's what, you know, if you can have, I guess that's what it's all about, you know, I mean, do what you're passionate about, but if you can have fun with it as well, and you've had 2 very different, but very interesting careers. So to go from, you know, radio broadcasting and DJing to, you know, to this, it's not something that someone would sit back and go, oh yeah, well, it's a natural transition.
No.
Not at all, but you've been successful at both of them. So, you know, I applaud you for that.
When I was 7 years old, my 2 favorite things, my poor mother, she would be like, oh, please, no, not Monopoly again. I love to play Monopoly. And then I had a little cassette recorder and I would push the button at 7 years old and pretend to be on the radio when I was 7.
Wow. So see, you knew then.
7 years old. Crazy. Radio and real estate.
You knew then you wanted to be a radio personality. Let me switch gears on you a little bit and just talk, you know, the current environment that we're in. Obviously, you know, we're transitioning from crisis to post-crisis. But how has that impacted your business? But I guess more importantly, how has it changed how you service your customers? Or are you doing things differently?
Yes, very differently. First off, the biggest thing ever when you first meet a customer was a nice big handshake, maybe even a hug, because I'm just that kind of person. So it's been really difficult for me because there's no handshakes and there's no hugs, but there is the chicken elbow, you know, the elbow.
Yeah.
Close enough to elbow. So that's a big change for me. And then also when we're in the house, we limit, like literally the clients don't touch anything. They look at the house with their hands behind their back. I have a Clorox wipe and I use the wipe to open the door and I wipe it down. If we have to turn on a light switch or off a light switch, we try not to touch any light switches at all.
Okay.
We leave them on and we let them know we left them on. And I do wipe the handle to the door when I leave. We wear masks. We just limit contact. We limit touching anything. I have sanitizers in my car. I have Clorox wipes in my car. I have masks. I have gloves. I have like a whole gear in my car, which is something that we've never done, but you've got, you know, and we've limited open houses too. That's another big thing. Because a lot of times open houses aren't productive anyway. You really get people that are just driving around and they're hot and they want to come in and sit down, get a glass of water, use the restroom. And I always tell sellers that open
I've
houses.
never heard that before, Kathy. I've never heard that.
It's, you know, every seller, the first thing they ask you is, are you going to do an open house? I said, if you want complete strangers that want something to drink, to use your bathroom, that are not pre-qualified, sure, we'll do as many open houses as you want. And they're like, no, I don't want that. I said,
Never
basically,
mind.
you're opening your door to complete strangers when you do an open house. And I've always not been for that, because it's just not, it's not a good thing. You know, you don't know anything about that person walking in the house, much less if they're really there to buy a house. So I'm a big stickler against open houses. Broker opens, I like. Why? Because you're inviting the real estate brokers who are working with pre-qualified people. That's another area that, yes, it's a big plus. But as far as open houses, I'm not a fan of that. And I've never been.
So I've seen, you know, just again with the current situation, you know, I've seen a lot of not being in the real estate industry, but, you know, kind of virtual tours of homes, and even the commercials on TV, you know, where home buyers can take like a virtual tour and that. So kind of thinking ahead, do you think that the COVID-19 is going to have a lasting impact on the real estate industry in terms of how people look for new homes, or do you think that, you know, it's a very hands-on, need to see it, touch it, kind of feel it, relational type environment?
Touch it, feel it, smell it, like somebody that can't deal with cigarette smoke. Well, guess what? In a virtual tour, you're not getting that. You don't know if the person is a smoker and the ceilings are yellow. You know, it's a super risky. And I don't feel that that's the way we're going, because the home is the biggest purchase you'll make in your life. And let's be honest, would you buy a house without going in it? I wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I personally wouldn't. Yeah.
I wouldn't. And I don't think very many, now if it's an investor and the house is 40, 50, 60,000, they'll buy it with a drive-by. But if you're buying a home to live in and you're committing to a 30-year mortgage, okay?
Yeah.
You need to be in that house. You need to see it. You need to smell it. There are factors that when you do a virtual tour, you can't really tell. Like sometimes a lot of the step ups and step downs, like I have a woman right now that's handicapped. She's in a walker. If I did a virtual tour, yeah, I would point out the step up and step down, but she still couldn't see if she could get up and down that without physically being there. Is there a wall to the left? Is there a bed to the right? What can we secure to so she can have a railing? So I feel that we're not going in that direction because it's such a big purchase. You know what I mean? I personally, when it comes to vehicles, I've bought 2 vehicles on the internet without seeing them, but that's a vehicle. That's, you know, $10, $15, $20,000, which is still a big amount of money, but it made me terribly nervous to do that. So I can't imagine spending $200,000 or $250,000 or $300,000 on a house and not walking into the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just even getting a feel for, you know, homes have a feeling to them, you know.
Yes. Like when you walk in the door, how far is it to the back? Is the back wall closed? You feel closed in. How high is the ceiling height? You can shoot video up, but you can't tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just need to look at it. And a house is a very emotional purchase. And I don't feel like that can be accomplished with a virtual tour. It's not going to work.
No, that's good. Let me ask you this. This is probably one of the most important questions during this interview. So, you know, we spent some time talking about, you know, what Aparo Griffin Properties is and what you do and how you do it, kind of what sets you apart a little bit. But, you know, the most important part of it, I think, is the why. And what I mean by that is, you know, obviously you operate in a very crowded space. So if someone is looking to purchase a home and there's so many options out there, you know, in terms of what real estate company to work with, you know, what agent to work with, what broker to work with, why would someone want to do business with you, with Kathy Aparo Griffin?
Because we're going to tell them the truth. We're going to be honest. We're not in this. Yeah, it's great that we get paid. Yeah, it's great that we get a check. But the number one goal is to do the right thing. Do the right thing. I swear my tombstone will say, do the right thing and do your best. Those are like my favorite sayings. Do the right thing and do your best. And if you always do the right thing, people recognize that. We're extremely honest. And what do I mean by that? I had a gentleman that I'm taking out again today that loved this house in Ormond Beach. He said, my wife and I really like this house. I said, that's great. But let me tell you what we need to check on. There's a garage that's converted, and I don't think that was permitted. Also, this is in a flood zone. We need to get an elevation certificate, and we need to make sure that the flood insurance falls within your debt to income ratios. And he's like, okay, I didn't even think about that. Well, his maximum for insurance is $1,500. The flood insurance alone is $1,600. And
wow.
The garage is permitted. So he's like, thank you so much for not getting me into that deal, because somebody else would have said, you like it? Great. Let's write up the offer. The poor guy spends the money on section. He spends the money on the appraisal. Then they start shopping for insurance, and he finds out his debt to income ratios are too high. He can't pay $1,600 for flood and $1,500 for homeowners, and he can get a $250 fine per day from code enforcement for the garage that's been converted with no permit. I was like, thank you so much for your honesty. He's like, why would you not want to sell me this house? I said, because I want you to be happy. He's like, yeah, but if I don't buy this, you don't get paid. I said, it doesn't matter. You're going to buy something. That's more important to me. And that's how it is. And I've had sellers get offers and they're like, do you think this is a fair offer? I said, you're the seller. You make the decision. Well, do you think we could get more? Yeah, I think we can get a better offer. Okay, well, we're not taking it. And they're like, why would you just take it and you could get paid in 30 days? Well, because I feel like I could get you $10,000 more. And so I think honesty is what a lot of people are in this for the money. If you're in this business for the money, forget it. Check out. Go get a day job. You cannot be in it for the money. I always teach my agents, do not count your chickens before they hatch. Do not. I go to closings sometimes. I don't even know when I'm getting paid. I leave the closing, and then a month later, the title company calls me and says, must be nice to not need your check. I'm like, no, I need it, but I don't need a lot in life. I need gas in my car. I need a roof over my head, and I need food. I'm good. I don't need a lot. So you can't be in it for the money is what I'm saying, because it comes through. You can't be honest. You can't, it comes through if you're in there for the money. The greed comes through. People have to know.
And the insincerity too, I think, you know, and to your point of honesty, you know, you can tell when someone's being, you know, insincere with you. So that's, you know, and as I said, you know, you work in a very crowded space. So that's definitely something that sets you apart. And, you know, I'm sure has contributed to the great success that you've had, you know, with the company. You know, it's about building a reputation, and, you know, just everything that you've said, it's that reputation that you've set for yourself and for your business and the community. So that's
goodwill.
Wonderful.
We call it goodwill. I had somebody come in yesterday. She sent me an email. She said, 12 years ago, you sold my parents their first house. It was their happiest day in their life. My father and mother were set in that house. The payment was nothing. They could totally afford it. He refied, pulled equity out, and lost the house. But I've been wanting to buy a house for 5 years. And there's no one in the world that I could trust other than you. Can you please help me? And it was like 12 years ago. You know what I mean? And I see that all the time. And I'm like, of course I'll help you. She's like, whatever you say, I'll do. I just need you to help me because you took care of my family once before. And that's that repeat goodwill. They know you're a good person. They know you're going to do the right thing. They know you're honest. And that's what builds a good business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Kathy, what is, and it can be recent, it can be when you started your business, but what's one of the best pieces of advice that someone gave you as a business owner?
I would say it's a combination of my good friend Philip, who said, buy this property. If you're going to be, you know, this is going to be your office, but it's not so much advice. I would have to go back to my grandma. I was very, very close to my grandma, and I don't want to get into religious things, but she always said, if you do good, God will bless you. That's what my grandma always said to me. O Signore ti benedice. So my whole life, I've done good. I've always tried to do good, always tried to do the right thing, and it's always come back tenfold. I mean, I had a pastor that was trying to buy his first house. They were in their 60s. They had never owned a home, and the down payment program went away. So now he didn't have closing costs, and it was 2 days before closing. What did I do? I said, here's my commission. Use that for your closing costs. And 2 years later, she's like, I have to pay you back. I said, you don't have to pay me back. They ended up buying 4 houses off of me. Okay. Their fourth house is cash. They made enough money off the houses over the years to where they moved to North Carolina and they bought their 4th house cash. They own it outright. And she was a beautiful artist. And this is one of the murals in my office, but I have other ones that she's painted. So she's always rewarded me and taken care of me, but they're forever, you know, they're forever in my hearts because I know that I contributed to them owning a home free and clear, no mortgage. And it was because I gave up that first commission to pay their closing costs.
That's a great story.
We got 4 other deals from them after that, you know? So yeah. He always takes care of me.
No, that's a great story. What, so, being a business owner is one thing. And I think there's a reality that being a female business owner is a little bit, different. So what, kind of the same question, but what's the best piece of advice, or what have you learned as a female entrepreneur, as a female business owner, that's helped you lead to the success that you've had?
That's a great question, because radio, just jumping back to radio so you understand my answer, radio is a male-dominated business. Programmers are male, afternoon drive is male, mornings are male. The only female shift is the midday shift. So I'm used to being in a male-dominated profession. Not that real estate is, but a lot of the brokers, a lot of them are men. The realtors are, I feel like there's more female realtors than male realtors, but when it comes to brokers and managers, there's more men. So I am used to being one of the good old boys. I guess that's a good word to use, because I'm used to dealing with men, and I'm used to dealing with, sometimes it can be difficult, and it's funny because there's an age range that I normally have a little difficulty with because they just want to try to tell me how to do things. And I'm always open to advice. That's being a good manager, is listening to advice and taking suggestions. But there's always people that think that they can run it better than you. And it's almost always been a man. So I think when I first got into this business and I was a broker, I put my foot down. I had a couple of male brokers in town. I'm not going to say who. They gave me a little bit of a hard time. And I put my foot down, and I immediately, on one of them, I filed an ethics complaint, and I never had any problems with that male broker again. And then on one of them, I filed a lawsuit, and that was within my first year. And I think word got that, wow, watch out, because if you try to pull one over, she's going to come back with teeth.
Yeah.
You're going to come back. So I think the biggest advice I have for females is, don't let them trample you. Stand up. You're as good as them. Yeah. And because we have, and don't hate me, male brokers, but because we're female, we have I feel like we have a little more compassion. You know what I mean? And being moms, we're used to, we have a little more, like my husband, please, he flies off the handle. But I can politically correctly tell somebody that that's not really nice what you did. But I think men sometimes can be a little more harsher. And, I can tell somebody the same message by tippy-toeing around it and get to the same point, but I could do it in a nice way. So I think the biggest part is just to let people know that you know what you're doing and that you can do it. That's it, that you can do it and you know what you're doing.
No, that's excellent advice. Excellent advice. this has been so enjoyable, and I want to give everyone listening or watching the opportunity to, find out more, because I'm sure there's more to your story, and there's a lot that you have to offer. So if someone is looking just to connect with you, or if someone is looking to purchase a home, or knows someone that's looking to purchase a home, what's the best way for them to connect with you and find out more?
Probably the best way would be just to email me, would be Kathy at aparogriffinproperties.com. We also have our Facebook, which is Aparo Griffin Properties. We're on Instagram, Aparo Griffin Properties. We're on Twitter, Aparo Griffin Properties. I'm on LinkedIn, and it's under Kathy Aparo Griffin. So any of these media outlets that are out there, I'm super reasonable, super reachable. And my phone number is right back here, 386-738-2845, or my cell phone, which is 386-748-0173. Email, phone number, anyway. Okay?
All right. If you're listening to this and you're not watching this, it's Kathy with a K, and Aparo is APARO, and then hyphen Griffin, GRIFFIN. So Kathy at Aparo Griffin Properties. Kathy, this has been wonderful. I mean, so enjoyable. You have a great story, and I am so excited to share it, with as many people as we can. So, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me. It's enjoyable to be able to talk to somebody and to tell you my story, and you're as pleasant as can be. You have the cutest smile, by the way.
Well, thank you. And if you can't see my smile, you can check it out on my LinkedIn page. So, no, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe as we work our way through this. And continued success to you.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
All right, you too.